Hello everyone, I'm JG and welcome back to Music Forever. We're today bringing you guys a brand new track review segment where I get to talk about several new recently released songs that I happen to hear and have some opinions on. And we have 3 songs to talk about here today, so not a whole ton. But still, to not waste any time, I guess I should just get started with things. Just a quick disclaimer, this is just my own personal opinion, so if you happen to disagree, it's perfectly fine. So yeah, let's get started with the first song I want to talk about here today. This new Periphery track, Garden in the Bones. Now, this is the second single from the band's upcoming new studio album, and the lead single from this thing, Blood Eagle, was a track that I really liked overall. I loved the many different parts to it. I loved the varying degrees of intensity that were present on that song. Overall, it was a track that got me pretty excited to hear this new album from these guys. And this new track here is another song that I like overall. I think I like it a fair amount less than Blood Eagle, but it's still a decent track. This track definitely feels a lot less intense and all over the place and crazy compared to Blood Eagle. There are some, varying different sounding moments here on the song overall. I mean, it is a Periphery track, so you could expect some variations in sound, I guess, but it's nowhere near as all over the place and daring as Blood Eagle was overall. This feels like it's definitely meant to be a bit more of a breather track on the album, possibly. And I think if it is going to occupy that type of position on the album, I think it does a fairly good job of it overall. The band still does bring some intensity here on this track, however, at the same time, it's not an overbearingly heavy track or anything like that. I think it strikes a nice balance between heaviness and the more catchy moments that this band has been able to craft in the past. Like I said, this track isn't as good as Blood Eagle in my opinion. I don't think this is one of the band's best songs or anything quite like that. However, I still think it's a decent track at the end of the day, and I feel like this is one of those songs that, depending on how it's used in the context of the greater album it's going to be a part of, I can see myself growing to like this track a lot more if it's used in a way that is to the song's benefit, really. So yeah, this is a decent track overall. I feel like Periphery fans should definitely check it out. Fans of this kind of progressive, djenty style of music, it's worth giving a listen to overall. Decent track in my opinion. Moving on, the next couple of tracks that we're going to be talking about actually come from the same artist, the 2 newest singles from Rae Jepsen. The first of them that we're going to be talking about is Now That I Found You. Overall, I think that this is a pretty good pop song at the end of the day. It's really catchy, it's really infectious. I love the really bouncy beat on this thing as well. Carly Rae's performance on the track itself is pretty great when it comes to the vocals on this thing. Like I said, she really sells the very upbeat, catchy sound that this track has. It's a pretty great performance overall. The lyrics on this thing are just kind of typical pop song fare for the most part. I feel like this is probably the greatest weakness for the most part of a lot of Carly Rae's music, how it's just a bit lyrically not super exciting, or at least it's one of the biggest problems I've had with a fair amount of her music. And this track and this couple of tracks aren't exactly exceptions to that rule either. But for 2 pop songs, just kind of meant to be listened to on their own, the lyrics really don't hold back my enjoyment of this track all that much. The performance on this thing is great enough to make it enjoyable. The beat on this thing is great enough to make it really enjoyable. The energy and the fun atmosphere that this track brings to the table is good enough to get me, excited when listening to this thing. It's overall just a really solid pop song, and one that I would definitely have to recommend. The second of the 2 singles dropped is No Drug Like Me, a track that overall I think is not as good as the first song from this single, but still a pretty decent pop song at the end of the day. The beat on this one is a bit bouncier overall. It's also a little bit simpler, I feel too, but not necessarily in a bad way either. I still quite like the beat on this thing. And Carly Rae's performance on this track is also, once again, pretty solid. It's another really catchy song as well. It has a lot of the qualities that I liked about the first track as well, so I'm not really going to repeat myself all too much when it comes to those things. I will say that, outside of the lyrics, once again, just not being all that exciting here on this track, I will say that this track does end a bit abruptly for me. Like, I'll just be listening to this song, and it's done, and I don't really expect it to be done then. I feel like there should be a little bit more to the song overall. It just kind of stops, as opposed to having a really proper ending to it. Not a fatal flaw with this track or anything, but that was a little bit disappointing to say the least. Overall, still another really solid pop song. One that, if you're going to check out the first track, you might as well check out this one too. And if you like that first track, you'll probably like the second one too to some extent. Overall, these couple of tracks are, like I said, really solid pop songs overall. If you're into that kind of thing, these are definitely worth checking out. And overall, that sums up all the things I have to talk about here in today's video. Like I said, not a whole ton of tracks that dropped recently that I really felt like covering, so I only had 3 to talk about here today. Hopefully in the upcoming weeks we'll have a few more tracks to talk about. But yeah, this was just my own personal opinion. If you happen to disagree, like I said before, you could feel free to leave your own thoughts on these tracks in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more music-related content. Things like album reviews, more track reviews, countdown lists, things of that sort. If you enjoy that kind of content, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching once again, and stay golden.